Next item would be the BEDA application of India Express for the at 772 West Bartlett Road. Tony, want to give us some background on that?
I'd love to. Thank you, Jerry. This is, let me do a little backtracking here. The BEDA program I had told you about at the last couple of meetings, that it was approved, an economic development incentive program targeting sales tax producing businesses with a wide range of eligible costs for incentives of up to 50% of costs or from a maximum of $50,000 for the incentive program. It's been funded for $150,000 total. So that's just a little quick background. Since that was approved by the village board at the May 1st meeting, we've had numerous meetings and phone calls about it, going over the parameters of the program. And of course, it takes a while to get projects moved from the pipeline to becoming more than just a prospect into an actual application or a good project. So very pleased to have here tonight our first application for a restaurant that will be called Indian Express over in Westgate Commons at 772 West Bartlett Road. For background, staff has been working with the petitioner, A.J. Tantuaya. I got it right? Yes, Tantuaya. I asked him a few times. He's a Bartlett resident. His family are Bartlett residents, and been working with him, one of our target businesses for quite a few years as the Indian population has continued to grow in the community, would be to attract an Indian restaurant to the town. Again, not just to serve, of course, Indian patrons, but all residents in Bartlett and around the surrounding communities. So we've been working with AJ, representing his family in the hopes of attracting the village's first Indian restaurant. So through a partnership, they purchased a commercial condominium unit at 772 West Bartlett Road in the Westgate Commons Shopping Plaza. Another quick background on the Westgate Shopping Plaza was developed in several phases, and unlike most of the commercial shopping areas in the community, actually unlike all of them, those are condominium units. So they're available for purchase both individually, and of course there's some investors who have purchased several units in Westgate Commons. So they went ahead working along with us in the pursuit of their project and purchased that unit. The space we're talking about is the former home to Sorel Salon. They had been there for quite a few years. The unit itself, they were tenants of that unit, and the unit had gone into foreclosure and became bank-owned, vacant for a short period of time before AJ's family purchased it. The BEDA program, as I've described to you, was created and approved with the express intent to attract new sales tax producing businesses, as well as assisting existing businesses with their expansions. The program provides matching funds for a number of business-related expenses, including interior build-outs and code compliance items. It was also conceived as a means to attract private investment to properties throughout the community. It's not targeted to a specific geographical area. It's available village-wide with the exception of those areas that are already in TIF districts. So when you hear of a business in Brewster Creek Business Park receiving an incentive, that comes out of the Brewster Creek Business Park TIF rather than the BEDA program. Indian Express, Mr. Tantuaya has dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and what was attached in your packet for tonight were some construction estimates by S. Kecke Construction. The project cost amounts to approximately $115,000. I started going over it with him and working on the report prior to receiving his quote for signage, which amounts to an additional about $4,000. So his total project cost comes out to approximately $119,000. The proposed floor plan, again, converting a hair salon into a restaurant, includes a 320 square foot kitchen, a dining room with 4 tables, each seating 4, and a waiting area in the front. Additionally, Indian Express will be installing an additional bathroom to meet current building code. As the village's first applicant for this BEDA program, Mr. Tantuaya has requested the maximum available incentive of $50,000, which would amount to about 42% of his build-out cost. I do want to add that in terms of employment numbers, this would be your, I'm going to call it a classic mom and pop establishment, although this would actually be more like a mom and son establishment, where his mother would be the primary chef, AJ would be the face in the front and the person making sure the business is running according to plan, as well as hiring 3 to 4 additional staff people. In terms of the recommendation, as I mentioned to you, there's a finite amount for this BEDA program. I like to think of it as a pilot program where we're going to see how the funds are deployed throughout this fiscal year that started last May 1st and runs through the following April. So it's $150,000 total. And although he did request $50,000, and I've discussed this with the petitioner, I'm suggesting and recommending a rebate in the amount of $25,000, which amounts to 21% of the total project costs. The recommendation, the reason for this being that, as I mentioned, we're in discussions, Scott and myself, with several, I almost want to say numerous, other potential applicants where they heard of this program, and it's helped to spur them into rethinking expansion plans in the case of a few existing businesses, as well as some empty vacant spaces, a long vacant space we're trying to attract a new restaurant to as well. So the recommendation takes into consideration several additional likely applicants within the next several months. I do expect to be bringing kind of a string of these BEDA applications to you throughout the rest of the year. So at this time, staff is seeking a recommendation from the EDC to approve a BEDA grant for Indian Express at 772 West Bartlett Road in the amount of $25,000. As you recall, the EDC makes recommendations to the village board, so whatever recommendation is made tonight would be forwarded to the village board for their review and final approval. And of course, as you recall, this program, it works on a reimbursement basis. So rather than cutting a village check in process, the entire work would be done prior, all the receipts and lien waivers and all the paperwork documenting the expenditures would be turned into myself for my BEDA file, and all improvements, of course, would have to be made to village code. What I had attached, because this is our first application and kind of working it as we go, after the staff report is his actual application where he signed it and estimated the costs. There's the estimate from S. Keki Construction that amounts, you can see, to $115,000. As a subsection of that quote, you see that quite a bit of that expenditures, over $30,000 worth, is for equipment. And also, Mr. Tantuaya forwarded to me the signage quote for $3,986. He turned in a full set of architectural plans, which we don't typically bring to the EDC or even typically to a board meeting. That's something that the building department works off of. But what I attached out of the plans that he turned in to me were the first 4 pages. And again, without dissecting every element of the plan, you can see that it converts what they have an existing floor plan and pictures of what you would say a typical hair salon would look like to the building plans where they include the new bathroom, the dining room, the office, the kitchen, waiting area. And so also, the fourth sheet was a general notes and equipment schedule. So you can see he's a very meticulous young man who's been working quite a bit on this project. And so now that I've introduced it, I've invited AJ tonight, if you'd like to hear some words from him about what he wants to do.
Please, and thank you so much, Mr. Tantawai. We're very excited for the opportunity that an Indian restaurant might be coming to Bartlett. I think that it would be helpful for us as a commission to perhaps hear directly from you about your vision for the restaurant and what you anticipate the restaurant to look like and how it will fit within the community. Thank you.
So does the green light mean that it's on?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for having me tonight. I've been working with Tony on this project back in January. I thought about this idea. We've been looking at the property for almost 6 months now with my family and I, because it was a foreclosure, it was a bank owned. So I brought this in the table in the beginning of the 2018 year. It's been a vision for my family and I for about 5 years. My mother has a passion of cooking to the Indian for the community. She's been cooking for the North Indian, for the South Indian, for all types of community. And my mom's a very good chef for the vegetarian community. And then plus, as you can see, this target area is right in the middle of two wonderful temples, the temple of the Jain temple and the one of the Swaminarayan temple, which is going to attract a lot of the Indian community as well. So it's going to bring more volume into Bartlett, which I'm very excited and to work with Bartlett as well on that. And this store overall is a fast food to go and a little bit of dine-in and a little bit of the catering as well. Because within our community, there's a lot of functions. There's like our wedding takes almost a week to get the wedding done and process going. So for each type of function, there's different foods, which my mom loves to cook those type of food for them as well. So within the summer as well, that's the biggest time and biggest revenue for the Indian community because there's weddings, there's baby showers, there's just a lot of events. There's a lot of special prayers that goes on as well that we're excited to serve that community as well into Bartlett. And overall, and as well, I live on West Bartlett Road, so I'm a mile away from the from the store because I live on the Lakewood Homes community. I live over there. And overall, with this store, this is my first business I was going to with my family and I. And we just want to have a great business start to the Indian community in Bartlett. I've been a resident in Bartlett for almost 14 plus years. I came here in 2007 or 2008, one of those 2 years. I've been here for that long. Bartlett it's a great place. It's fun. There's a lot of restaurants coming into Bartlett as well. The community is great. People are wonderful here in downtown Bartlett. It's been a great experience. They're coming down to the different pubs and stores over here. And just overall, the goal of my store is to serve with the Indian community as well with the other communities and make sure that everyone has a wonderful taste of the Indian food that my mom loves to cook people for.
That's great. Is your mom a professional cook or is she a home cook?
I would say she's a professional. She's not she never went to school for it, or she never went to school, but she's very professional to it. Her food's quality is great, everything's great. My family loves it, friends love it, the relatives love it. It's been word of mouth. I constantly, you need to take your talent and expand it onto your talent to the community now.
Sure.
At this
What's
point.
your family's experience in the restaurant industry?
In the restaurant industry, it will be our first time going to the restaurant industry as a family and I. We don't have any particular background in the restaurant industry. It's our first time going into it at the moment.
Okay, and do you have business management experience as well?
Yes, yes. So I went to school at the Benedictine University in Laos. I got my degree in the bachelor's of of the business administration.
Great.
I graduated in 2015 from the Benedictine, and I currently right now, I currently work as an auditor up in Arlington Heights. I currently work as an auditor for a magazine and newspaper publication. So I do auditing for them at the moment. But as solely as I open up the business, I will transition out of my full-time role, and I'll be managing the restaurant 24/7 pretty much. Because in the restaurant industry, as we all know, it's a 24/7 job. There's no days off for anyone, like in that industry.
Sure. With the size of the restaurant, you've got 4 tables with a maximum seating of 16 people, which you said you anticipate doing carry-out and catering as well.
Yes.
Have you projected revenues for the restaurant?
We would like, for per month, we are trying to get to be at $10,000 to $15,000 a month, like a revenue coming in from that.
What do you think your average ticket is for somebody coming in for either carry-out or dining in? So if I was to come in, what would I expect to pay for a meal to take away?
For a meal, just for a meal, not for like an appetizer, entree, or dessert, do we doing a full meal, or are we gonna?
Well, I guess if I'm going to come in, I'm going to come in hungry to a
Gonna
new
come hungry.
restaurant, right?
Yeah, no, that's, no, 100%. I would expect between $20 to $25.
Per person?
Yeah,
Wow, okay.
yeah.
Are you going to be seeking an alcohol license?
In the near future, I will be doing that, yes.
Will be.
Not in the beginning at the moment.
So how were you able to do did you do your own research on all the different items you would need for the restaurant?
Yes, so I did my own research, and I was actually, I used to be a server, bartender, and a host back when I was from high school to college, when I was from 16 to 23. So I've been in the industry for almost 7 to 8 years. I have the knowledge of what needs to be in the kitchen and how to run a restaurant successfully, of the front face and how to manage it at a time.
Did you get multiple quotes?
For the build out,
Yeah, looks like it's a Chicago-based business.
Yes.
How'd you arrive at these guys?
from my brother's friend. My brother, my brother's been working with this guy for almost 3 or 4 years. He's done a lot of properties for my brother as well. So we just had to, with the recommendation of him, we've been working with him for almost 3 years now.
So you're looking to have the work done, it looks like September 10th. Does that mean like the restaurant would be opening at that time, or that's just to get this part of the face or
I would like to be open by September 10th, but I think it's gonna be pushed back a little bit more until October right now at the moment.
I had did we have something in the proposal saying like they had to open within a year of doing the work? Did we have anything in the?
There isn't really that type of stipulation. That's usually part of a building permit. Once the building permit is secured, they have a certain amount of time. I believe it actually is 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Tantuawa, I'm looking at your application, and there is an inquiry for primary contact for project, and it says AJT. Who is AJT? Is that you?
That's me.
Okay, all right. I'm going to ask that this application be amended to include his full last name. And you reside at 758, is that Dyer Drive?
Yep.
And that's in Lakewood Hills?
Yeah,
Okay. I asked that the applicant address also be amended to include Bartlett, Illinois.
I'll make note of that. Thank you.
I just want to redress the issue of an alcohol license, and certainly we know that the purchase of alcoholic beverages in Bartlett certainly adds to a tab, but it also would provide you the opportunity for video gaming as well. It's no secret to this board that I have a hard time with people making applications for alcohol licenses solely to open up video gaming. Is that the intention to also apply to the state for video gaming?
no,
Okay, thank you.
So would it be counter service then, even with the tables there? Would you order at the counter and then take it to sit down?
service, right, when, in the build out, I have like an open area with put the register and the POS system right there, where people can order in front and go and sit down. I'll give them a ticket number, and the food will come to them at that point.
Okay.
And what are your hours of operation?
I am looking right now from 11 to 7 from Tuesday through Saturday, from 11 to 7:30, and then on Sunday from 11 to 5, and then on Monday closed.
Do you think that closing at 7:30 is prudent for diners in the Bartlett area?
Yes, I've been going around that area around that time, and I've been looking at the volume and how much drivers coming in around that time.
Okay.
It is pretty slow around that time, and the volume's starting to decrease at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Do you foresee any outdoor seating?
No.
Do you think 16 is enough? I mean, even just looking at the Indian community, they don't ever do anything with less than 16 people.
Yeah, no, that is true. I would think about putting 2 more tables, but overall, with the focus of the store is like a pickup, to go, and the catering. So I'll look to permanently focus on that business, and then go from there pretty much. If I need to add more volume of the tables, I will be doing that then.
Any further questions from the commissioners? If
I
not,
have questions, but I think they're more for Tony on the program in general. So I'm not
Okay.
sure if, I don't want to have you be in the crosshairs here.
No, you're
But,
fine.
It is about the quote, actually, and is there a verification process for the quote? And more specifically, is there an opportunity for a Bartlett-based company to match the quote? To keep some.
It's not a requirement for the application. We encourage people to investigate Bartlett-based businesses, but it's not a requirement. And in terms of verification, that usually comes on the back end when they turn in receipts and lien waivers. Just having looked at restaurant build-out quotes many times over the years, it's actually a very good quote. And, you know, like any project, it depends on the size and the scope of the project. So in terms of verifying the quote, it's you know, we put it on the petitioner to turn in the quotes, but don't require them to seek one out from a Bartlett-based business. We want them to get a quote that's the best, most competitive that they can find.
He did select a Bartlett Chamber member for his sign build-out, so he does have some representation in there from a Bartlett company.
I'm assuming that the permitting process has already been completed for the restaurant?
No, it has
Hasn't
not.
even been? Okay.
No, it's in process. These, last we met was just late last week, was firming up a few more things to submit to the building department.
Okay.
Jerry, yeah, we would seek a recommendation, a formal recommendation, a motion and a second, and then a vote on this item.
I motion to recommend it.
okay, I've learned my lesson not to speak up so soon. Staff is looking for a recommendation to approve the BEDA approval for their recommended amount of $25,000 versus the $50,000 that the petitioner is requesting. Do we have a discussion on that amount, or do we have a motion to approve that amount to forward to the board, village board?
I motion to approve the full 25,000.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you.
Sounds
That'll-
like.
that'll be
sounds like
forwarded to
unanimous
the-
approval.
The recommendation will be forwarded to the village board, and again, we anticipate bringing more of these to make full use of the 150,000. Thanks.
Next agenda item would be new business, Tony.
Thank you. I just have one or two things I'd like to add quickly. I didn't put the usual update of all the development that's going on in the town in light of having our first BEDA application tonight. But there certainly is quite a bit of development going on, and I'll bring some of that to your attention at an upcoming meeting. One of the things I wanted to mention tonight is hearkening back to the downtown TOD plan. For some of you who've been on the EDC for a period of time, the EDC and staff and a steering committee spent the better part of mid-2015 through mid-2016 working on a comprehensive future plan for downtown Bartlett, referred to as the downtown TOD plan. That was approved by the village board in October of 2016. So here we are again, almost 2 years later. And one of the next steps, I should also add the $125,000 cost of that study. $100,000 of that was funded through a grant through the RTA that makes these transit-oriented planning grants available on an annual basis. And one of the things that they do, we keep into contact with them. I don't talk about the TOD plan at every meeting like I used to, but we keep into contact with them about 2 or 3 times a year, reporting on our progress or lack thereof. And one of the things that was suggested to us was to pursue another implementation grant. And the scope of that particular grant that we applied for is to redo our downtown zoning. Now, our zoning ordinance in general for the village is quite dated. I don't know how many of you have looked at the zoning ordinance, but it's over 30, closer to 40 years old in some parts. It reflects a lot of uses and characteristics of properties that doesn't really apply very well to 2018 and beyond. And what we did was apply for a grant to redo the zoning and to create a new zoning overlay district for the downtown. There's several zoning districts. If you go north of the railroad tracks, there's specific zoning. There's different zoning for Main Street. There's pockets of zoning, B3 over at Bartlett Plaza. There's some industrial zoning in the downtown. We have received this grant funding from the RTA to do a zoning overlay district for the downtown. One of the steps of that, it's just very early in the process, just selected a consultant a couple of weeks ago before the 4th. We've just started creating a steering committee. And of course, Commissioner Smedilla recall being on the steering committee for the downtown TOD plan. And we have asked Joe Laporte to serve on the steering committee. He's a long-time resident and property owner in the downtown area. And so this is something that's going to kick off later this month with an initial meeting. This is a smaller project, dare I say, than the downtown TOD plan. So there's really one public workshop planned, whereas by my recollection, I believe we had 3. Is that 3? I'm asking. I think it was 3 public meetings we had at Bartlett Hills to seek public input when we did the TOD plan. But again, that resulted in hundreds of pages of comprehensive plans, whereas this is, a zoning overlay area. So just wanted to mention that. Commissioner Laporte graciously agreed to serve on this steering committee, and it's kicking off hopefully the last week of this month. So I wanted to mention that and field any questions if there is questions about that.
For the zoning overlay, is that to accommodate the last TOD plan?
In a word, yes, but it goes beyond that. The TOD plan, and really I should send a link to everybody to refresh you. It's very, very comprehensive. Spent a lot of time with consultants, studied every aspect of the downtown. And it's hard to generalize it because it's kind of a building by building plan almost. But to generalize it, it would create a denser, more walkable, more pedestrian-friendly area, bringing buildings closer to the street. Our staff always cites Dr. Ackerman's new building that she's almost completing just a few blocks south of here as a prime example of the type of development that we'd be seeking, where she demolished kind of an older building that was set off of the street and brought it up, and it's also a mixed-use building. It's commercial on the first floor, but she's building 2 apartments on the second floor. So again, it's a long time. It's not something that happens overnight. I've mentioned previously we have a very nice apartment complex that's been proposed for a village-owned site in our downtown. So I do have the feeling that the TOD plan is going to play out kind of step by step and property by property as new owners take over properties and as some properties may be redeveloped over the years. So we wanted our zoning to better reflect that. Instead of encouraging traditional suburban development where you have a parking field up front near the street and then a building kind of set back, or it encourages the development of more strip centers rather than mixed-use buildings or multi-level buildings. I'm of the opinion, and the TOD plan was of the opinion, that we have abundant parking available in downtown and that we should maximize more of the undeveloped pieces of land throughout the downtown. So we create something where we walk out of the meeting tonight and it's busy and there's buildings and there's people walking around and there's more businesses like Indian Express or whatever the next businesses that we're going to work with. So in a nutshell, yes, it's an implementation strategy for the TOD plan.
Thank you.
Do you have like an example of I guess I don't know all the different zonings, so like there's different like you said, there's multi-use, just commercial?
Yes. I'd be glad to talk about that. I looked at zoning for many, many years. We're looking to more implement something called form-based zoning, that instead of having a prescriptive list, like if you were to look at our zoning ordinance tonight online, you would see it would list out a bunch of uses. It would say you can have a barber shop, you can have a shoe store, you can have a restaurant. We're looking to do something more like generally say you can have commercial, you can have, there's all kinds of, we talked about this before, about more, tech-heavy or tech-oriented businesses. So we don't want to do just a prescriptive list of what businesses exist in 2018, but more like a type of businesses that can accommodate so nobody has to redo the zoning for another 30 years after this. And also we would be more addressing form rather than the function, so to encourage some multi-level buildings. Quite frankly, it's our staff's intention to reduce the parking requirements for the downtown. So it encourages more walkability and more density. So that's kind of, zoning is the village's, legal way to regulate land use. But we want to encourage more mixed use and more development in the downtown area, as opposed to out in a subdivision out west of Route 59 or one of the business parks. We want to encourage density and walkability in our downtown district. Okay.
Do you have any updates from the campaign that was on cable for the land that's for sale at 59?
I do. That could be a long meeting on its own. The short of it is that we've received multiple letters of intent on it. We've received, they've shifted now that we're in the land selling business. For those of you who don't know which one we're talking about, the village owns 11 acres of land at the southwest corner of 59 and Lake Street. And earlier this year, Scott and myself and our staff and our EDC went on a pretty aggressive campaign to market this land. We went out to the ICSC show in Las Vegas in May to promote it. We did cable TV commercials. We did an email blast to about 500 brokers multiple times. It did generate quite a bit of interest, mostly on the residential side. And the best way I can describe it and invite Scott to comment on it if he wishes is we're in the process of weighing the merits of various proposals, before we go ahead and sell village-owned land and try to maximize the utility of it. We certainly want to attract commercial to it. We've sat here before and talked about trying to attract a hotel to the site. So we don't want to necessarily take a step that would detract from the future possibility of bringing a hotel to that site. And those are meetings and discussions we have as recently as today. So that's a good question. Yeah, we're hoping to bring development to that site, in the near future. Moving back again, our EDC created a 2016 through 2020 marketing plan a few years ago, and that's a prominent piece of land that, sounded like a long time, 5 years to bring development to that site, but we're midway through that. So that's a high-profile property that we're still grappling with to some extent.
Okay, if there are no further questions about new business, we're looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved?
Second?
I actually have a quick question.
Motion, second.
I don't think
all
I
in
met you
favor?
before.
Richard Miskowitz, I'm filling in for Nan.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, then I have met you before.
I think I've seen you at another meeting.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't say that. For the record, Richard Miskowitz joined us to represent the Chamber of Commerce.
All right. Sorry about that.
You're good, and I apologize for coming in late.
It's so,
Do we have a motion and a second?
motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? I know everybody's in favor, so.
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, meeting adjourned. See you next month.